The snow had been falling since dawn, thick and relentless, blanketing the rural roads of western Massachusetts in a silence that felt almost sacred. James Whitaker stood at the entrance of Hope Valley Animal Shelter, his white cane tapping against the concrete steps, listening to the muffled world around him. At 72, he'd learned to read environments through sound and texture, the whisper of snowflakes. Against his jacket, the creak of the door hinge as someone approached from inside, the particular quality of air that told him he was near shelter, near warmth. "Mr. Whitaker?" A woman's voice, kind and professional. "I'm Sarah Chen, the shelter director. Please come in out of this storm." James nodded, folding his cane with practiced efficiency as a hand gently touched his elbow, guiding him across the threshold. The warmth hit him immediately, along with the familiar scent of animals, that particular combination of fur, kibble, and industrial cleaner that all shelters seem to share. Somewhere in the building, dogs barked in sporadic chorus, but the sound was oddly comforting. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice," James said, stamping snow from his boots on the mat. "I know the weather makes everything difficult." "Nonsense," Sarah replied, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "If you're brave enough to come out in this, the least we can do is help you find what you're looking for. You mentioned on the phone you need a guide dog." "A companion," James corrected gently. "At my age, I'm not sure guide dog is the right term. More like a friend for whatever time remains. Someone to share the quiet with." Sarah's hand on his arm squeezed briefly, a gesture of understanding that needed no words. "We have several dogs that might be perfect. Older dogs, actually, who've been overlooked by younger families. They're trained, patient, and desperately in need of someone who'll appreciate them." As she spoke, leading him deeper into the building, James caught fragments of the shelter's geography through sound and air movement. A hallway, linoleum under his feet. The bark of dogs growing louder. They were approaching the kennels. He'd been in shelters before. During the 3 years since his wife Margaret had passed, he'd considered getting a dog then, but hadn't been ready. Now as winter stretched before him and the silence of his house grew too heavy, he'd finally made the call. "We keep our long-term residents back here," Sarah was saying. "There's a beautiful golden retriever mix named Honey who's 7, and a lab named..." She stopped mid-sentence. One of the dogs had begun barking, not the casual announcement of visitors, but something urgent, almost frantic. The sound cut through the ambient noise like a knife, a deep, powerful voice that seemed to carry both desperation and demand. "That's unusual," Sarah murmured, and James heard genuine surprise in her tone. "That's Max. He never reacts like this to visitors." The barking intensified, joined now by a whining sound that made something deep in James's chest contract. It was a sound he hadn't heard in years, yet his body recognized it before his mind could catch up. An alert, a plea, a sound that bypassed rational thought and struck directly at memory. "Can we..." James's voice came out rougher than intended. "Can we go to that dog first?" Sarah hesitated only a moment. "Of course. Though I should warn you, Max has been with us for 3 months. He was surrendered by an owner who said he couldn't manage him anymore. Max is gentle, perfectly trained actually, but he's been distant, polite to everyone but attached to no one. This is the first time I've seen him show interest in anyone." They moved down the row of kennels, James counting his steps automatically, orienting himself by sound and Sarah's guidance. The barking grew louder, more insistent, and beneath it that whining continued, a sound of such desperate need that James felt his hands beginning to shake. "We're here," Sarah said softly. James could hear it now, clear as day. The scrabble of claws against chain link, the heavy panting, the whine that seemed to vibrate in the air between them. Without being told, he knew the dog was pressed against the front of the kennel, straining toward him with every fiber of its being. "May I?" James extended his hand toward where he sensed the barrier. Yes, of course. His fingers found cold metal chain link fence, and immediately, before he'd even fully reached through, there was contact. A wet nose pressed urgently against his palm, then a tongue, then the solid warmth of a muzzle pushing through the gaps in the fence with desperate insistence. The moment contact was made, the barking stopped. The sudden silence was absolute, stunning. James heard Sarah's sharp intake of breath, heard what might have been another staff member approaching from down the hall. But his entire focus had narrowed to the sensation beneath his fingertips. He knew this shape. God help him, he knew it. What? His throat had gone tight. What does he look like? He's a German shepherd, Sarah said, her voice carrying a note of uncertainty, as if she sensed something shifting in the air but couldn't identify what. Black and tan, maybe 7 or 8 years old. He's big, probably 85 pounds. There's a scar above his left eye, old by the look of it. His posture is military, actually. The way he sits, the way he holds himself. We wondered if he might have been a working dog at some point. James's legs felt suddenly unsteady. His free hand groped for something to hold, found the wall, pressed against it for support. The scar, he managed. Above which eye? His left. Yes. Sarah's voice had shifted entirely now, sharp with attention. Mr. Whitaker, are you all right? Do you know this dog? He couldn't answer. Couldn't speak past the tightness in his chest. The roaring in his ears that had nothing to do with his damaged optic. Nerves and everything to do with a possibility. So impossible he didn't dare let himself believe it. Through the fence, the dog, Max. She'd called him Max, pressed harder against James's hand, whining continuously now, a soft, desperate sound that was somehow both greeting and question and plea all at once. Can I? James swallowed hard. Can I go in? Can I meet him properly? Robert, Sarah called, and James heard footsteps approaching quickly. Get the leash. We're bringing Max out. There was the jangle of keys, the click of a lock, the creak of a gate swinging open. James expected the rush of a dog freed from confinement. The enthusiastic leap that even trained dogs sometimes couldn't suppress. Instead, there were careful, deliberate footsteps, four-legged, measured, approaching with military precision. The dog sat directly in front of him. James could feel the warmth radiating from its body, could smell the distinct scent that all German shepherds seem to carry, that particular musk of fur and breath and something indefinably loyal. May I touch him? James asked. Please, Sarah said quietly. James lowered himself slowly to his knees, his joints protesting the cold concrete floor. He extended both hands, and the dog, patient, trembling slightly, allowed himself to be examined. James's fingers found the broad skull, the alert ears pinned back against the head, the powerful neck. His hands traced the shoulders, the deep chest, feeling the rapid heartbeat beneath fur and muscle. He found the legs, the paws, and there, on the right front paw, a toe that bent slightly wrong, an old injury that had healed at an angle. Oh God, James whispered. His hands moved back up, finding the face, tracing the muzzle, the cheeks, and there above the left eye, his fingers found the ridge of scar tissue, maybe 3 inches long, the texture distinctive against the surrounding fur. The dog waited through all of this with perfect stillness, the way a soldier might stand for inspection. But the trembling had increased, and the whining had become nearly continuous. Tell me, James said, his voice breaking. Tell me what his intake papers say. Where did he come from? He heard papers rustling, Sarah or Robert moving quickly. He was surrendered by a man named Donald Peterson 3 months ago, Sarah read. He'd adopted Max from a military working dog. Rehoming program in 2019. The notes say, her voice faltered. The notes say the dog's original handler was KIA, killed in action. The dog was considered retired and surplus to needs. James made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh, wasn't quite a sob. They told him I was dead, he said to the room. To the air, to the dog trembling before him. That's why you stopped looking. That's why they gave you away. Mr. Whitaker, Sarah said carefully, are you saying his name isn't Max? James's hands cupped the dog's face, his thumbs stroking the familiar cheekbones. The shape he'd memorized during 3 years in Afghanistan, during countless nights in forward operating bases, during missions where this dog had been the only thing standing between him and invisible death. His name is Captain. The dog exploded into motion. Not violent, not uncontrolled, but a full-body response that seemed to contain years of suppressed emotion. He pressed himself against James's chest, whining and licking at the tears that had begun streaming down the old veteran's weathered face, his entire body wriggling with a joy that was almost puppyish despite his age and training. James wrapped his arms around the dog, around Captain, and buried his face in the thick ruff of fur. And for the first time in 13 years, he felt complete. "Show me," he whispered against the dog's ear. "Show me you remember." Captain pulled back slightly. James felt the shift in weight, the movement, and then a paw touched his knee, once, twice, deliberate, unmistakable. Then Captain lay down and placed his head across James's foot. The IED alert, the signal they'd developed together, the communication that had saved James's life and the lives of his unit more times than he could count. A signal that meant I found something. Pay attention. Danger here. "He's saying he found me," James said through his tears, his voice rough with emotion. "That's what that means. It's an explosive detection alert. He's saying he found me." Behind him, James heard someone, Robert probably, let out a choked sound. Sarah's voice when she spoke was thick. "Mr. Whitaker, I don't understand. If this is your dog, how—" "Afghanistan," James said simply, his hands never stopping their movement through Captain's fur, relearning every contour, every familiar landmark. 2012, I was a military working dog handler. Captain and I worked explosive detection together for 3 years. 3 deployments. He saved my life more times than I can count." He paused, his hands finding the scar above Captain's eye. "He got this in Kandahar, shrapnel from an IED we just marked. A piece hit him, he didn't even flinch. Just sat there maintaining his alert until EOD could respond. That's the kind of soldier he was." "And you?" Sarah asked gently. "Different IED, different day. June 2012. I was with my unit, Captain was with me, and we missed one. Just one hidden better than the others. When it went off, James's jaw tightened. I woke up in Landstuhl Medical Center 3 days later, blind. They told me Captain had been in the blast radius, but survived. They told me he'd been reassigned. I tried for years, through veterans organizations, through military channels, trying to find where they'd sent him, trying to get him back. They kept telling me he was with a new handler, that I needed to move on. But he wasn't," Sarah said, understanding dawning. "They thought you died. They retired him and put him in the rehoming program. And some poor bastard adopted him thinking he'd get a trained protection dog, not understanding that Captain wasn't just trained. He was bonded. He wasn't distant with you," James said, addressing the shelter now. "He was waiting. He was waiting for me." Robert had moved closer, and James could hear the younger man's unsteady breathing. "How did he know?" Robert asked, wonder evident in his voice. "You came through that door, and he just knew. How is that possible?" James smiled, his face still pressed against Captain's neck. "Scent, probably. Dogs can identify individual humans by scent even years later. But it's more than that, isn't it, boy?" He scratched behind Captain's ears, finding the cowlick behind the right one that had always been there. "We lived together, worked together, slept in the same tent, ate the same dust. He knew my breathing, my heartbeat, the way I moved. Blindness doesn't change those things. This is..." Sarah's voice was thick with emotion. "I've worked in animal welfare for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. It's recognition before sight," James said quietly. "Neither of us can see the way we used to. His eyes aren't what they were either, are they? But we don't need to see. We know. We've always known." Captain had settled now, his body pressed along James's side, his head resting on James's thigh. The trembling had stopped, replaced by a deep contentment that radiated from the dog like heat. Occasionally, his tail would thump against the concrete floor, a steady rhythm of pure happiness. "What do we need to do?" James asked, his voice becoming more practical even as his hand continued its automatic stroking along Captain's spine. "For the adoption, I know there are procedures." "Nothing," Sarah said firmly. "There's nothing you need to do except take him home. This is his home. You're his home. The paperwork is a formality. I can pay. Mr. Whitaker, Sarah interrupted, and there was steel beneath the kindness now. Some things are meant to be. This is one of them. The fee is waived. Consider it our thank you for your service, both of your service. Robert was already moving, gathering papers. I'll need some basic information, he said, his voice still rough. Address, contact information, emergency contacts, and we'll need to go over Captain's medical records. He's up to date on everything, but there are some age-related issues you should know about. Age-related? James repeated with a soft laugh. That makes two of us. Sarah knelt beside him, and he heard the rustle of papers. He's got some arthritis in his hips, manageable with supplements. His hearing isn't what it was. He's on a special diet for digestion. The vet estimates he's about 9 years old now, maybe 10. The previous owner's records weren't complete. 9 or 10, James murmured, his hand finding Captain's graying muzzle, the white hairs he could feel, mixing with the black. You're an old man now, aren't you? We both are. Captain's tail thumped harder, as if to say age didn't matter, had never mattered. How are you set up at home? Sarah asked. In terms of accessibility, I mean. Single-story house, fully adapted for blindness, fenced backyard. I have a visiting nurse twice a week, neighbors who check in. I'm alone, he added, the words coming easier than they had in years. But I manage. I'll manage better now. Any family? Son in California. Daughter in Maine. They visit when they can, call weekly. They've been after me to get a dog for years, he smiled. They're going to think I'm making this up. Take pictures, Robert suggested. Or video. We can help with that before you go. James shook his head. They'll see it when they see it. Some things you can't capture in pictures. You have to witness them. They spent the next 20 minutes on practicalities. James provided information. Signed forms he couldn't see but trusted. What choice did he have but to trust? While Captain remained pressed against his leg, occasionally nosing at his hand as if to confirm he was still there, still real. The storm's gotten worse, Sarah observed. Peering out a window James couldn't see. I don't think you should try to get home on your own. Let me call you a ride. My husband drives a truck, he can handle this weather. Or you could wait it out here. I've waited 13 years, James said simply. I can wait a few more hours if needed. But I'd rather get Captain home, get him settled. Start whatever time we have left together. Let me make some calls, Sarah said, already moving away. Alone with Captain and Robert, James sat back against the wall, his hand resting on the dog's head. Captain had shifted to lie with his full weight against James's leg, a solid presence that felt like an anchor, like coming home. Can I ask you something? Robert said hesitantly. Of course. When you came in today, did you know? Did you hope? James considered the question. No, he said finally. I didn't let myself hope for that. Hope like that, it's too dangerous at my age. Too much disappointment waiting in it. I just wanted a companion, someone to share the silence with. But I think, he paused, his fingers finding the scar above Captain's eye again, tracing it like a prayer. I think maybe he knew. Maybe he's been waiting here in this place because somehow he knew I'd come. That sounds crazy. No, Robert said quietly. Today that doesn't sound crazy at all. Sarah returned after a few minutes. My husband's on his way. He'll be here in 20 minutes. In the meantime, let's get Captain's things together. We have his medical records. His food will send you home with enough for a week, and there's a bed he's been using. Does he have any toys? James asked. Things he likes? There's a Kong toy he carries around sometimes, and a rope. He doesn't play much, but he keeps them near his bed. He was never much for playing, James said, memories flooding back. He was always serious, all business, but he liked having his things arranged just so, everything in its place. Still does, Sarah confirmed. His bed, his bowls, his toys, he keeps them in a specific arrangement. If we move them for cleaning, he puts them back. James smiled. That's Captain. They moved to the shelter's front office to wait for the ride. Captain walking at James's left side in perfect heel position, no leash needed. The muscle memory was instant, automatic. James's hand resting lightly on the dog's back, Captain adjusting his pace to match James's careful steps, both of them moving as one unit the way they had through the mountains of Afghanistan. In the office, Captain lay down beside James's chair, his head resting on his paws. His eyes, James imagined, never leaving his handler's face. Sarah pressed a warm cup of coffee into James's hands, and they sat in comfortable silence, listening to the storm rage outside. "You know," Sarah said after a while, "I almost didn't call you. When you called yesterday asking about older dogs, about German Shepherds specifically, I almost said we didn't have any. Ex-Captain, he's been hard to place. People want younger dogs, or they want dogs who are more emotionally available. He's been perfectly behaved but distant. I worried he'd be here for years." "He was waiting," James said simply. "Can I ask what made you call? Why now, after all this time?" James took a sip of coffee, considering. "My wife passed 3 years ago, cancer. For a while after that, the silence was what I needed. Time to grieve, time to adjust. But lately the silence started feeling different, hollow. I'm 72 years old. I've been blind for 13 years. I've lost my career, my wife, and I thought I'd lost my best friend. But I realized I was just waiting for something to tell me it was time to stop waiting and start living again. And yesterday I just knew it was time. So you called." "So I called. And you had a German Shepherd who needed a home," he smiled. "I didn't dare hope it would be Captain, but I think some part of me must have known, must have recognized that it was time." A horn honked outside, 2 short blasts. "That's my husband," Sarah said. "Let's get you home." They loaded Captain's belongings into the truck: bed, bowls, toys, bags of special food, medical records in a waterproof folder. Robert helped James into the passenger seat while Captain leaped into the back with surprising agility for his age, settling immediately on his bed, alert and watchful. Sarah leaned into the truck, pressing something into James's hand. "My card," she said. "My personal cell number is on the back. If you need anything at all, you call me. Day or night." "Thank you," James said, and the words felt inadequate for everything they encompassed. "Thank you," Sarah replied, "for your service, for not giving up on him, for coming today in this storm when you could have waited for better weather." "Some things can't wait," James said. The drive home took 40 minutes, crawling through snow-covered roads that Sarah's husband navigated with calm competence. He didn't try to make conversation, sensing perhaps that James needed the quiet, needed the time to process the impossible thing that had happened. When they pulled into James's driveway, Captain was on his feet before the truck had fully stopped, tail wagging, watching James intently. "I'll help you get everything inside," Sarah's husband offered. "I'd appreciate that." They made several trips, carrying bags and bed and bowls into the house James had adapted over years to accommodate his blindness. Everything had its place, everything was memorized. Now there would be new things to incorporate, new arrangements to learn. But Captain knew the drill. As soon as the door closed behind the departing truck, he did a quick patrol of the house, room by room, methodical and thorough, the way he'd been trained to clear buildings in hostile territory. James listened to the click of nails on hardwood, tracking the dog's progress. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, back to the living room. Then Captain returned to James's side and sat, pressing his shoulder against James's leg. "Clear. Safe. Home." "Yeah," James said softly, his hand finding Captain's head. "Home." He set up Captain's bowls in the kitchen, filled one with water and one with the measured portion of food Sarah had sent. Captain ate with careful efficiency, the way he'd always eaten, not frantic, not rushed, but focused. When he finished, he drank, then returned to where James had settled in his favorite armchair. The house had never felt warm like this. Margaret's absence had left a cold space that James had learned to navigate, but never fill. Now, with Captain's solid weight pressed against his leg, the cold felt less absolute. "I have to tell you something," James said into the quiet house, addressing the dog who couldn't answer but would understand. "I looked for you, for years. I called every organization I could find, wrote letters I had to dictate because I couldn't see to write them myself. I never stopped looking. I need you to know that. Captain's tail thumped against the floor. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry it took so long. Sorry you spent years with someone who didn't understand, who couldn't give you what you needed. Sorry you spent 3 months in that shelter waiting. Captain shifted, and James felt the warm weight of the dog's head settle on his lap, the way it used to in the tent at night. Both of them finding comfort in proximity, in the simple fact of not being alone. But we're together now, James continued, his voice steadier. Whatever time we have left, months, years, however long, we'll finish together. The way we started, partners, brothers, the team we've always been. Outside, the storm continued to rage. Snow piling against windows, wind howling through bare trees. But inside James Whitaker's small house, 2 old soldiers sat in warmth and silence. Recognition complete, reunion achieved. The waiting finally over. James's hand moved in long, familiar strokes down Captain's back, and in the darkness behind his sightless eyes, he could see perfectly clearly his friend, his partner, his brother in arms, returned to him against all odds and logic. They had found each other, not through sight, but through something deeper, through loyalty that endured across years and miles and bureaucratic mistakes, through bonds forged in fire and dust and fear, through a love that required no eyes to recognize, no words to express. The snow fell, the wind howled, and inside, in the warm darkness, 2 old warriors rested together. Their long separation ended at last. In the weeks that followed, James would call his children and tell them the story. They would weep and marvel and come to visit, to meet the legendary captain they'd heard about their entire lives, but never thought they'd see. Sarah would call weekly to check in, would visit monthly, would become a friend. The local veterans organization would hear the story and want to feature it. But James would decline politely. It's not a story for strangers, he'd say. It's just our life. Mine and Captain's, that's all it needs to be. But tonight, this first night, there was no thought of the future, no plans or considerations. There was only the present moment, pure and perfect, a blind man and an aging dog, reunited by chance or fate or something beyond either, sitting together in the quiet house while winter raged harmlessly outside. Captain sighed, a deep sound of contentment, and his breathing began to slow as sleep claimed him. James felt the shift, the subtle relaxation of muscle and mind that meant his partner felt safe enough to rest. "Welcome home, soldier," James whispered, his voice barely audible above the storm. "Welcome home." And in the peaceful darkness of that snowy night, for the first time in 13 years, both of them slept without dreams of searching, without the ache of incompleteness. They had found what they'd lost. They were at last exactly where they belonged, together.